Basin public meeting, take two, I guess. So we had a real successful public meeting, open house on Wednesday in the Beckwourth Ranger District, and it was well attended. I think there's maybe 60 to 70 people there, so it's good to see a good turnout here again on a Saturday. My name is Don Frigulia. I'm the acting district fire management officer for the Beckwourth Ranger District. So my day job is I'm in charge of all the fire suppression, prevention, and detection units on the Basin Ranger District. And today, I'm also the ID team leader, the interdisciplinary team leader for the Lakes Basin project. So I coordinate with everybody on the team who I'm about to introduce to you. Just some quick logistics here in the room. If nobody's ever been to the Granville Fire Hall, there's bathrooms here in the back. Want to call your attention to please sign the sign-in sheet if you haven't already. Before you leave, please sign the sign-in sheet so we have a way to get a hold of you. Email address or a regular mail address. We want to keep the public informed on this process. And then we also have some 4x6 note cards in the back there. That's your chance to write down some comments. There's a little cardboard box back there that says comments on it. So today, throughout the public meeting, you guys are welcome to write some stuff on comment cards and please put them in the box. They will become part of the permanent record of this project, and we welcome all the comments that we can get. So I want to introduce the team, and they can do a little talk about themselves and what they're doing. And we'll start with Cassandra.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Meyer. I am the Self Rep Forester on the Beckwourth Ranger District.
I'm Paul Szynecki, the District Self Culturist.
Mary Clayunas, the Beckwourth Ranger District Archaeologist.
I'm Mike Fred, I'm the district botanist. I'm in charge of things like rare plants, weeds, and revegetation, which we probably will do some revegetation on this project.
I'm Antonio Duenas, I'm the District Hydrologist in charge of the Watershed Department.
I'm Deborah Freiberger, EB, and I'm in charge of recreation, lands, public services.
Kyla Sabo, I'm the NEPA planner on the district. I'll be in charge of all the NEPA process once we get that rolling for this project.
And I'm Debbie Bliss. I'm a wildlife biologist on the district. And I apologize, I'm having a little trouble talking.
I'm Deb Lovelace, the district ranger here on the Beckwourth Ranger District. And I'd like to introduce our acting force supervisor.
Good morning, my name is Chris French, and I'm the acting force supervisor here.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. So just to tag on to Kyla's, the NEPA, the process for the NEPA is just beginning right now for this project. And that's why this is an open house and not a quote-unquote public meeting. So this is more of an open forum discussion on what you, as members of the public, would like to see us implement in the Lakes Basin area. So it's a chance for everybody to comment, like I already said. So we're just beginning the NEPA process. Public scoping will begin this fall sometime, and like I said, we're gathering input. So a quick overview of the project, and probably if people have been around in the Lakes Basin area, they've seen this trailhead flyer that we've enlarged here. But basically, the project has some, as we see it, we've done some surveying out there. We've brainstormed. We've had some ideas about this project. That's this map right here. There should be 11 by 17s of this large map. Proposed units and WUI zones should be on everybody's table there. And so we have some, first and foremost, we're trying to do some forest health improvements as well as protect the WUI. And the WUI stands for Wildland Urban Interface, for those of you that don't know. And that's this area here, concentrated around the community of Granville, so just to the south of us here. And that will include some mechanical treatment as well as some follow-up underburning. And then we have a large portion that we're proposing or not proposing, but we've brainstormed the idea that we'd like to have some underburn only up in the higher elevation, the Montaigne Chaparral and the higher country red fir area. And then we have some trails and some recreation emphasis, or not emphasis, but we have some recreation trails that we're looking at improving the recreation experience in the Lake Basin area, perhaps bringing some trails into the system that have been brought to our attention. And So yeah, back to the forest health and the underburn only, I'd like to let Paul talk just real quick about a couple of maps that we put up here for fire regime and condition maps.
Okay, so once again, I'm Paul Szynski, the district silviculturist, dealing with trees and fire. And what we have here is two maps. The first map here is showing pre-settlement, fire frequency, and fire severity. What happened prior to Euro-American settlement in the area. And a lot of this information and data is collected by tree ring data. Researchers go out to the forest, set up plots, and look at trees that have been fire scarred and do tree ring information analysis, and also looking at down debris on the ground and analyzing charcoal remains and things of that nature. And so what we have here is the green is generally what that indicates is this area had a frequent fire frequency, and so it occurred every 0 to 35 years. In the Lakes Basin area, not the Plumas, it averages about 16 years. Within Sierra Mixed Conifer, that's what generally this green is. And so it would burn frequently, and it was generally large in size, but slow burn and low severity. So then as you transition, you see the red and the yellow. Generally, that was more or less frequent fire, but greater severity. And so fires didn't burn as often, but they burned generally causing more damage or mortality than overstory. And so and that was prior to settlement. Now, here this map indicates current condition. What do we have up there now? And as you can see, that kind of stands out. And this is where we're starting to see or where shifts have changed. We've seen a change in species composition, tree size, and kind of related to a lack of fire. And so, the Forest Service, we used to have a policy basically of putting out every single fire as soon as they started. And so what we've seen is a greater number of trees in these areas, more fire, less resistant trees. So we're doing a species composition from pine species to more fir species. We're seeing a lot of smaller trees. So generally what we're seeing is that we have some scattered overstory trees, and we have a lot of smaller trees underneath them that act as ladder fields. Take a ground fire and shift it up into the canopy. And so you can see it's been a dramatic change. And so these last fires have generally occurred within the Lakes Basin, about range from about 50 to 100 years ago. And you can see in some of these areas along the trails and stuff, you can see some old fire-scarred trees, but generally it's about 50 to 60 years ago. And up here in the higher elevation, it's been over 100 years. So, that being said, on the treatment map here now, as you can see, we've placed our treatment areas in specific spots. So generally, the blue indicates what we're thinking of doing mechanical treatment, basically using feller buncher type equipment to fell trees, and then removing handsaw with smaller trees with the handsaws. And then about the placement though, so we have a lot of treatment along the boundary with Gray Eagle itself. This is considered WUI area, but also another factor was the terrain itself, topography. And so a lot of this area is over 40% slope, and we generally don't do cable logging on the forest, so that was a limiting factor. And so and you can see also around the lodges, we've thought about doing some treatments and around this side of Gold Lake, around the other lakes there. And generally the treatments would be considered a skip gap type approach, where we're creating small openings, and then those would be considered gaps. And then skips, where we'll just do minimum amount of work, thinning from below, removing ladder fuels. And then in between these areas, we call the matrix, we do variable density thinning, or leading to a variety of different densities of trees, and try to represent what was there historically. But while keeping in mind that we do have some standards and guidelines, such as canopy cover rules and regulations that we have to follow. So, yeah, so then these are the primary areas that we treated mechanically, and we have some areas that would just be hand thinning or gravel mining. And this addresses fuels aspect from aerial fuels or canopy continuity, but also from a forest health standpoint in regards to reducing number of trees per acre, which then would lead to less competition between trees for sunlight, nutrients, and growing space. And it makes them more resistant to insects such as bark beetles, defoliators, and things of that nature. So that's the forest health aspect of it. And then the fuels, like I said, canopy continuity, and then also addressing ground fuel accumulations that are on the ground currently. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what, from a silviculture forestry standpoint, what we're thinking of doing.
Cool. Thank you, Paul. So that's, that was good, thank you. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is of course, probably everybody in the room is aware that we have a listed species that has critical habitat within the Lakes Basin area. That's the Sierra Nevada yellow-legged frog. And so we're trying to, we're proposing, or we're looking at improving habitat for that frog. So we want to make sure that, for example, we've discussed having some trails pulled or water crossings improved so that way we improve the habitat for the frog. So kind of how we're going to work this meeting, there's 3 tables around here obviously, and we're going to have specialists. You got introduced to the ID team and who they are, and I'm getting some stuff written back on.
If you might want to just have the other folks go through some of their stuff before we.
I'm sorry.
Before we break it up.
Okay, so you got Mary Kay, you want to touch on some archaeological?
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Again, my name is Mary Clay-Eunice, and I'm the archaeologist here at Highworth. And we know that the Lakes Basin area has been very important to people for hundreds to thousands of years. We have very significant archaeological sites that the Native Americans used over time. And I believe a lot of the trails that we use today were actually created by these tribal members. We have very significant rock art in the area, the petroglyphs up there. We have some interpretive panels for that. And then we know people have been recreating in the area for so long that it was actually designated a recreation area as early as the 1920s. All of the lodges up there are historic, and so there's been a lot of historic use, the logging, the mining. It's just been a very important area to people over time, and that's what we want to continue to protect and manage throughout this project.
Debbie?
Yeah, for recreation improvements or enhancements, one thing we got to remember that this is a forest health project. So recreation is trying to take advantage that the specialists are already out there doing surveys, and so we can kind of tag along and help do some recreation enhancements. So we're looking at adding some trails that are already on the landscape out there, but they're not a part of our trail system. They were either created a long time ago by users or I'm not exactly sure how they got there, but they're being used. So we want to have the specialists do the surveys so we can add those trails into our system and we can maintain them. And that will entail just maybe widening the trail a little bit, or the clearing. We have certain clearing limits, and also working on the crossings. We also are looking through this project is adding some additional trails. There's one trail which is very popular on Mills Peak, and right now part of the trail goes down a road, and we would like to look at taking the trail off of that road and moving it up on the ridge, called the Mills Peak Reroute. And we're also looking at creating another trail that comes from Mills Peak down to the Gold Lake Highway. And that trail would use a combination of new construction, existing pathways out there. I don't know if you would call them roads or whatever, but they're obviously, they were a travel route of some sort at some time. And then existing roads that will be decommissioned. So that's kind of what we're looking at as far as trails. We would like to open up some of the trailheads. Some of the trailheads are pretty compact, and we would like to maybe do some tree removal and make it larger, a little larger, not super parking lots or whatever, but a little bit bigger to accommodate more people in some of the trailheads. And we're also looking at on the Gold Lake Highway to open up some of the vistas. there's some pullouts there, but the trees are growing in and you can't really see a nice vista of the Lakes Basin area. And that's one thing, a lot of people do is they do scenic driving. So we would like to enhance their experiences, being able to see the scenery a little bit better along the road. So that's about it for recreation.
So part of the surveys that I did out there in Lakes Basin for this project was to look at the roads. I had my crew and I went out there last week to validate a lot of the non-system roads. So there's a traffic management process that we went through several years ago that restricts user access, including us, in terms of what roads we're allowed to drive on and what roads we're not. Anything that's not part of the map here, which is the info map, the motor vehicle use map. These are the routes, the system routes that we're maintaining, and the routes that we're allowing the public and ourselves to drive on. Anything outside of this would be considered a non-system road. I tried to GPS every single road that was not part of this system. So this map displays that along with the info roads too. So if anybody has some concerns or their favorite roads out there in this project are non-info roads or non-system roads, that's the kind of comments I would look forward to seeing. There's a lot of dispersed camping out there too. I captured about at least 6 or 7 along Fraser Creek Road and intermittently throughout the Lakes Basin area. I look to possibly improve some of those for dispersed camping, hunters camps and stuff like that. Some of the roads themselves are basically wayfarer roads, limited roads where people just created them really briefly, temporarily. I just look forward to putting some verification potentially on there. But these are all just ideals in my head, so I look forward to hearing some comments on in regards to that. So my department, we deal with watershed. It encompasses the whole watershed in general. We deal with roads, soils, geology, hydrology, of course, and those sorts of things. So if you guys have anything out there you would like to talk about, I'm seeing after we bring it up. Thank you.
I just wondered how our comments today will be used to form and change the plan.
So if you fill out a 4x6 card, it will be typed up and it will be part of the project record, and your comments will definitely be taken into consideration. I mean, I can't guarantee. Yeah, go ahead.
So, first of all, when we start getting in the NEPA process, if you have any questions, please call me. I find it confusing and I do it every day. And so, you guys need to be informed of how to stay committed to the project so that your comments count. But for this project, since we haven't started the NEPA official process yet, my idea was we are going to have all your comments written out. We'll post them online so that you can see. And then once we start actually developing the NEPA scoping packet, that's a legal kind of term, but it's basically what we're proposing for the project. I was thinking it would be really helpful as an attachment to that to have your comments in a spreadsheet, and then you could see how we addressed your comments. If we, were able to bring them into the project, if we weren't, and this is why. And so you could see exactly how that tracked. And then you could comment on that again. Like, this process is going to continuing evolving process. And so I just wanted to be really transparent so you can see that we're addressing your comments, that we're tracking them, that they're not just staying in that box over there. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But that's kind of how we're going to process these this time around so that you can see them.
Does that answer
you?
Yeah. Does that answer your question? If you don't mind, I'm going to let one more person talk, and then we'll have time for some general comments for the group, and then we'll break up. So it's that way. If you don't mind talking about the young lady from quick.
Good morning. Again, I apologize for my voice, and I hope it will hold out. But I'm a wildlife biologist on this project, and I know, at least in the last meeting we had on Wednesday, there was a lot of concern about the yellow-legged frog and what that was going to do up in Lakes Basin. And so one of my suggestions, and I think it's up here as part of an objective, was to improve creek crossings. We have 40 plus miles of trails out there in Lakes Basin. A lot of those cross perennial creeks that that's habitat for, like a frog. So what we'd like to do is improve those crossings in some way. I don't know what that's going to be at this point. I'm sure we talk to the engineers and that sort of thing, but something to get bikes, feet, and horse hooves out of the creek so the frogs can have free passage and everybody can have good passage across the creek. So that's one of my ideas that I brought forward for this project that could be really beneficial to everybody. Another part of the project is I do a lot of habitat. When I'm out there, I'm looking at different habitats, and one of the things we have out there is we have a lot of meadows that are being encroached by conifers that historically were a lot bigger, and I think you can actually see it in this photo kind of shows you here. That's what this meadow used to look like in 1936, and you can see there's a lot more trees and they've moved to the meadow. So we'll be looking for opportunities to increase the size of our meadows and get them back to a more historic size. Same with our aspen stands. You guys probably are familiar with that we do a lot of work in aspen stands, and there's quite a few up here in this project, so we'll be looking at that too. And then lastly, just to squelch any misunderstandings that may be out there, there is currently a project being done by California Department of Fish and Wildlife on Gold Lake, on the Mount Huff Ranger District, which is our neighboring district. That is not on this district, and it is not our project, and it is not in Lakes Basin. So I hope I made that. Because there's lots of people who think it is on Gold Lake in Lakes Basin, and it is not. It's on Mount Huff, it is not in Lakes Basin, and the Forest Service is not a part of that project at all. Cal Fish and Wildlife is in charge of the animals in the state. A lot of people don't realize that. We have no jurisdiction over the animals themselves. My job is habitat improvement, whatever. We have the land, but the animals belong to the state, so we have no jurisdiction over the animals, just to help squelch some of that stuff that I've been hearing. So, any questions?
Okay, thank you, Jim. Mike Friend, let our district bodies speak to the plans.
The main thing I'd like to mention about the plant community in Lakes Basin is the noxious weeds and really the lack of noxious weeds in that area, which is really, really good news. I have these noxious weed booklets for you all that I can hand out, and so come to see me if you'd like one of those. But relative to the rest of the surrounding forest, there are very few non-native plants in the Lakes Basin area. So in this project, I'd really like to make a strong effort to keep it that way. There are non-native plants, but without going into too much detail, a noxious weed has some kind of legal or policy designation that says it's a noxious weed. It's on a list. A non-native plant can or cannot be, may or may not be a noxious weed. So there are non-native plants like cheatgrass, which is very common across all the West. There are non-native plants in Lakes Basin, but there are no known noxious weeds that are on a list that designate them and that we have to manage. So to keep it that way, or to hope to keep it that way, I intend to strengthen our noxious weed precautions, which is mainly washing of equipment and vehicles before they do any work up in the Lakes Basin area. So, and we realize that does make it a little bit more difficult for contractors to do their work. But personally, I think it's worth it, and as a district, I've gotten support. We think it's worth it. So it's a gem for native plants and for more or less, I don't want to say pristine, but let's say an intact native plant community relative to the surrounding forest, and relative probably to much of the north state of California. So it's not as pristine as, like, say, Yosemite or a national park, but relative to the forest around it, it really is kind of special, and we do get a lot of visitorship for wildflower viewing. There are some rare plants in the Lakes Basin area, but they are isolated, and mostly they are small occurrences. So if there is a project proposed beside or in a native plant, a rare plant occurrence, most of the time we can easily go around it. So that's mostly how we will deal with any rare plants in the area. So, any questions about plants? Or if you have any, come see me.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so that's kind of how we want today to work. In here in just a second, I'm going to answer some general questions from the group. If you have specific questions from all the functional areas that I just gave their little talks, I'd like to save those and go to the tables and break out, and we can ask those specific questions. So one last thing before we do break out and the questions questions start coming a little faster, I want everybody to please be respectful of us as Forest Service employees, of the people in this room here. We want to be respectful and make sure that everybody's gets their say, but at the same time, we all have to live here, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I'll open it up to the floor to general questions. I know this lady here had a nice hand up.
Hi, my name is Terry Woods. I came to California in 1986. I've been living in Portola for 15 years. I came to this country, I served in the military, thinking I wanted to preserve the rights and the rights of the citizens and democracy. Okay, last year when they start killing the fish at Gold Lake, somebody provided me with a map, an old NAFTA map, 20-some years ago. It shows the plot was to eliminate human existence in some of these open areas. And I found out that the Fish and Wild are using the same map to identify the Gold Lake to kill the fish. I wanted to know, is that a plot to eliminate human existence in these open areas? It bothers me a lot. I think that is hideous, monstrous to try to plan on eliminating human existence in some of these areas. And I'd like to get an answer for that.
Yeah, I can't.
What? And let me finish, okay? How can you come up with a map 20-some years ago and use the same map that NAFTA to show? It shows exactly to eliminate human existence in this particular area, specifically Gold Lake.
Did the Forest Service make that map?
I'm sorry?
Did the Forest Service make that map?
No, this is the Fish and Wild map.
Right, so this is not California Fish and Game.
Okay,
This
but
is not,
this is the
has
same
nothing to do
map.
with that.
Okay, you're killing the fish at Gold Lake, okay?
We're actually not, I think Debbie just spoke to that.
We're not.
Actually, we're actually not killing the fish at Gold Lake. It's the state of California, it's the federal government, United States.
You're not killing the fish right now? Who's killing the fish then? I've been told.
I think I just told you actually, California Department of Fish and Game.
So let me just be clear about the project. So the project that we're talking about is U.S. Forest Service sponsored, and it's what, all of our specialists just talked about. The state of California has other projects that are going on in the same area that we do not have anything to do with, and we're not discussing at this meeting at all. We don't have any say in those. So we understand that you have other information and that there are other people here that have other ideas about what, should and will go on up there, and we're very fine with it, discussing those. We would be very happy to help you all distinguish between what's the Forest Service projects and what's other agency projects as we go through the discussion today.
I think there's a conspiracy going on on this thing, I just don't understand how can Fish and Wild use the same map that NAFTA developed 20-some years ago to a plan to kill the fish at Gold Lake. I don't understand that.
In Quincy that you can go down to and talk to them about. So we would like to just continue with this project today. And if you need some other information about their contact, I can get that for you.
Is it possible you're mixing up the two Gold Lakes? There's two Gold Lakes.
Oh, I know, the one at Butt Lakes.
Right.
So,
this
I
one is
know
the
that.
Fish kill. This Gold Lake in this project isn't doing the fish kill.
Well, okay, thank you very much. But I just want to say that I think that that is a hideous plan to try to eliminate human existence in some of these areas.
Yes, sir.
I missed it if you said it, but what is the time frame on the project we're discussing today?
Okay, so we're going to start the NEPA process in the fall with some public scoping, and we hope to have a signed decision. I'll let Kyla talk about that just a little bit more. I have to answer all those questions on Wednesday.
Yeah, right. So this project is going to be an environmental impact statement, which just is a longer word. It means it's going to take a little bit more time. There's more legal rules and regulations we have to follow. But we hope to start the scoping period this fall. After we get your comments during that period, we'll address them. We do our analysis, and then we put out the draft document for you guys to read, which includes all the specialist analysis, everything, just more and more and more information for you to look at. We're hoping to be done in 2017. It's a long process. there's comment periods that legally we have to stick to. So there's this 30-day scoping period, there's a 45-day comment period on the draft EIS, and then there's a 45-day objection period. We have new rules and regulations. If anyone's concerned about, we used to do appeals, if that word triggers you, if anyone has questions, we are no longer under that appeal period. You still have rights to object the project, but if you have questions regarding the actual legal process, feel free to come talk to me. It is confusing, and I just want to make sure everyone is informed so that they have the rights that you're staying in the process, and you have rights to object the process if you don't like it. So, in a nutshell, it's a hard thing to say, but in 2017, we're hoping to be done with a decision.
Done with the decision, not done the
No,
process.
yes, done with the NEPA side, and then it gets transferred over to Cassandra and REC for implementation.
And so what's your length of time anticipation then for the scope of
So we're looking tentatively, again, we're looking at doing some long-term stewardship contracting. And the stewardship contracts typically are 10-year contracts. So starting in 2018-ish for 10 years to follow.
Implementation in this project is going to be difficult because we want to be respectful of all the recreation use out there, and so it's going to be a timing. When's the best time, both for wildlife and recreation, to implement more of the timber part of it, because you'll have machinery and big equipment out there, and so we're going to have to be addressing that. That's why the implementation might take a little bit longer, because it might need to be spread out. Like, we might have very short windows of time when the equipment can be out there, so it impacts recreation the least amount. Or wildlife, we have certain periods where we can't be out there. And then for recreation, as far as the trails, I think that's when monies become available, if we can get groups helping and so forth.
Did we answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
I have 40 acres, and the Forest Service helped us up in that area do some thinning. It was a great idea. We had a wonderful Forest Service person who surveyed the property. She marked places that were important water sites, riparian sites, and I went out and marked trees that I did not want cut down. They were sugar pine trees, and because there was really nobody there from the Forest Service supervising this project, those guys did pretty much what they wanted and left. I mean, it was good, it was helpful, but it's still a mess.
So
Probably afterwards.
Yeah.
So I just want, my question is there going to be, I'm going to use an outside contractor, is there going to be somebody who is an expert in in the part of the service, the Forest Service, who will be kind of monitoring this?
Yes, we have cell administrators that during while the logging operations are actually going on, there will be cell administrators that make sure that they're doing everything to what the contract says, and monitoring what they're cutting, how they're skinning, how they're impacting the ground out there.
On our land.
Yes, on our land.
Your land, you said your land was thin, but
A company that is contracted for the Forest
is
Service.
that through the Fire Safety Council?
It was.
Yeah, but they're, like Cassandra said, we have sales administrators that they go out there.
Well,
They're out there on a daily basis to make
The
sure.
Forest Service person, actually there were two that came out and just really looked at everything and did a great job picking out until, this is not going to be damaged, but when the guys got there, they just kind of did whatever was right in their eyes.
So is this Mohawk Vista?
Yes.
It's a fire safe council project, and we have to check for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, Mr. Bowden.
This goes back to the NEPA issue. In terms of the project description, is that already set in stone? Or will the comments made at these forums help
They're going to
influence
have that proposed action, right? If you're familiar at all with the NEPA process, yeah.
And also, does the scoping session influence the project description, or is
Yes.
that just about?
So what we have right up here, this is just ideas. This is nothing official as of now. When we take all your comments, I would say the only thing official right now is our project boundary, because that's where the surveys have been done. And so we don't really want to go outside that boundary because then we'd have to do additional surveys. But as far as the project description, our objectives for the project, our actions, those will, I would say those are only more final once we get into what you call the draft environmental impact statement. So the whole point of scoping, so your comments today will help us develop our scoping project, the scoping package, and then when we have our actual scoping package sent out, your guys' comments will change them again. So there will be 2 or 3 more iterations from what we see here today. So yeah.
Nobody mentioned the kind of wilderness aspects of the area, that one of the things that's so attractive about it is there are some really nice remote areas that do have those qualities. Are people addressing that issue?
Yeah, so in the map way, kind of in the corner over there.
Yeah, unfortunately, this map kind of got tucked over here. But what this is it shows all the different land allocations from our land management plan, which is a document that we have to abide by. The areas in green are semi-primitive prescription. So that kind of gets, it's not wilderness, but it's semi-primitive. So, you know, we're bound by what we can do in semi-primitive areas when we're in here looking at stuff. So the way we cut the timber may change, or you know, that kind of thing. This is the recreation area. This is a recreation prescription. That's a different prescription than here. And it's all in our plan. It outlines for us, you know, what we can and can't do in the recreation area. Then we've got visual partial retention and visual retention. So all of this area is allocated a certain way in our land management plan, and we follow that as we're going through the process.
But I would say specifically address your comment about more of the wilderness characteristics. That would include stump height. That would include if we are going to be doing thinning, maybe like along a trail, we kind of what we would call feather it out from the trail, so it's a little bit more, it's not as noticeable. You're not going to see it because it'll be a little bit thicker and then we'll thin heavier as we get away from the trail kind of things. But that's one reason why also when Paul said that we're not doing a lot in here, because we do realize it's a huge recreation area and that we have these more, I think Mike used the word and I don't want to use it, but pristine areas. We don't want to impact too much of what's going on. And I think that's another reason why we're talking about an underburn only area, because that's not, it's a lighter touch on the landscape instead of bringing equipment in.
Sure.
Many of the trails in the area go through private property or partially through private property. Many of the roads to trailheads go through private property. I realize that's not your jurisdiction if it is private property, but are you doing any coordination with those property owners to try and enhance any private property usage?
So definitely with the largest landowner around here, which would be Great Land and Water. So we're definitely in communication and working with the West family on that. And any other private property owners that we don't know about, we would definitely welcome them. And they can, are you perhaps one of them?
No.
No. Okay. So we would definitely welcome any private property owners to come and talk to us, especially in conjunction with the Fire State Council. If they wanted to get their lands thinned in conjunction, with this project, it's definitely possible to do. So we are working in concert with the private landowners in the area.
It seems like some of the objectives on the plan address the perceived shortage of transportation facilities like parking lots, roads. Given that people have a choice of how they get to Lakes Basin from Grade or from Portola, would it be wise to include a larger area, potentially like looking at a Feather River Trail between Portola, Clio, Grade, so that people could access this area in an on-motorized way?
In a perfect world, I think we would love to do stuff like that, and we're constrained by budget, obviously, and the amount of time that we have to go out and survey. The surveys take quite a bit of time. In fact, we've been surveying in the Lakes Basin area for the last 3 years, just to try to get an idea of what all is up there for the plants and the wildlife and the watershed. So definitely, there's other projects that obviously aren't this one that are in the works, and I think that Joe Trail Stewardship Partners, they're working on stuff like that as well.
But even just like access from Grego, which is within your project area, I tried to find the trail that goes up to Lake Basin, I couldn't even find it. You know, so it's not signed well.
Yeah.
Those alternatives, you know.
We're gonna try to improve the recreation experience up there. That's one of the ideas we brainstormed about, not saying that.
Yeah, so if you could provide comments like trail, I mean, they're not properly, you know, that would be very helpful for us, because we're out there all the time, so we know where things are, so that for sure.
And also just what if any revenue is expected, from the trees that are being proposed to be cut, can it be sold to timber companies, and what's the revenue?
So, I don't.
Can I,
Yeah, go ahead.
since this is gonna be, the idea is to have it as a 10-year stewardship, the revenue from the timber sales, trees that are cut, that money will go to funding the other projects up there that we want to do, like the thinning, stuff, building trails. It's a way to bring the money back to the project to be able to do other things on the ground.
So they're going to Sierra Pacific
We don't know, yeah. It's just open to, that's why it's another economical thing for the community.
Can I just ask one more question? Is natural succession, why is that being ruled out as a way of management in this area? Like presumably, you know, Lake Basin pre-European settlement was in a balanced state. There were a whole lot of more old growth trees. There was clear cutting, which resulted in the same age of trees. That increases fire risk. So, you know, how much of it is aesthetic versus fire control versus, and what about the impacts of, you know, dragging huge trees across the landscape of the yellow-legged frog?
You're right, and so, you know, we're under certain standard and guides that we have to follow, and right now that's up to 30-inch trees, so, you know, we don't cut old growth trees down anymore on public land. That's, you know, I mean, that's the end of that. You know, and you're right, we're doing it to protect the community more than anything, especially down here around Grego, where we're proposing mechanical treatment, and so, I mean, that's in our mission, it's a heavy focus for the Forest Service right now is protection of the wildland urban interface, and so that's why we're doing this project down there. Natural succession, you know, that doesn't work so good when people's houses are involved, so that'd be a hard thing to.
And I would say that's another reason why we want to underburn that larger area, because that's an underburn is more of a natural type influence, and it will develop, it'll be super spotty, and it's not going to burn completely 100% because of the time and season that we're going to do it. And so I think that would kind of address more of that natural landscape approach. But I agree with Don and the WUI, we got to be very careful with what we're doing, and we have a responsibility as the Forest Service to try to protect some of those areas in there. So that would be our #1 priority in that area.
Yeah, and in fact, this area up here that's designated for underburn only is actually close to being within its natural fire return interval, so it burned every 100 to 150 years, and we're right in there now, and so that is actually, it's the natural time for that stuff to probably have some fire again within it. Okay, I'll get to you, Greg.
And then really quick, and then right around that blue area near Grego, that's where a lot of the historic logging occurred, so that's where it has gotten a lot out of whack from its natural succession, and in our treatments, we want to try and get some of that back as well.
I wanted to know who's funding this project. Is it through a grant
No, it's through appropriated dollars through the U.S. government,
from which department is actually doing the funding?
the Department of Agriculture.
Department of Agriculture.
Yes.
Okay. May I ask how much was the grant for this project?
There is no grant.
I mean, okay, what is the, you know, I mean, how much are you guys spending on this project?
I don't have the exact number off the top of my head.
I think this year we were funded for salaries and for, I think we've done some contracts for surveys, and it's right at $80,000, which is pretty low for right now. As we go into the analysis, it will increase because we'll have more people involved in it. But the money is appropriated through Congress, through the Department of Agriculture, to the Forest Service, to the regional office, to the forest. So it goes down that path.
Congressional, it's part of our budget.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? I got one here in the back, and then you're next.
Hey, I just want to applaud Recreation's efforts to include some additional trails in the project. I don't know how many people in the room are Recreation recreationists in the area, but the trails that they're talking about adding are going to add some really critical links to the network of trails up there, and it's really going to help connect the community if we're able to the larger lakes basin units. I applaud that effort. On that same note, though, next door in the Mount Puff Ranger District, we've had a number of communication conflicts with either new trails or recently refurbished trails and logging operations. Not that I'm anti-logging or anti-thinning at all, but it seems that people are not talking to each other from one office to the next, and it's been quite a bit of conflict. So I was just wondering how you guys are going to try to manage that on this project.
You know, I think a comment to that effect, put in the record would be good for us, and yeah, I mean, all we can say is
Well, I think also that's really important to know is we have, before we do our thinning operations, we call them green cards, and every timber unit has its specific green card, and every specialist will go through and write down their concerns on that card, which gets handed over to the timber sale admin people, and then that can get funded through the contract. And so we have a chain of information that goes back and forth, and then our admin people and Cassandra do a fantastic job of tracking all the resource concerns. And so we've already talked about identifying on the ground early on specific cross points or trails where we would cross so that we know exactly where. So it wouldn't be a free-for-all along the entire trail, but there would be certain points where they would cross it that would then be rehabbed as part of the timber sale afterwards. So I don't know what's going on in Mount Huff, but I think on the backwards, like we really tried hard to whatever went in the NEPA to implement on the ground and track that information. I don't know if you
Yeah, but, and also we just, when they're out there in that area where those trails are at, you would be notified they're out there, and there'd probably be, there in certain area, there might be times that we would have to, for safety reasons, keep people off that certain part of the trail.
So that it's possible we would have to close that section.
Just mainly for safety reasons.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's more just voicing a concern. It seems like that's one of the details that falls through the cracks as the project is full steam.
That was one of our main issues, I think, that we talked about right away, because that was my concern, being timber sale layout, was we need to protect these trails.
I think we have one in the front here.
So a few minutes ago, you stated in the perfect world where you guys would have money to be able to do trails and whatnot. Here, I mean, maybe last year or a year ago, did the Forest Service have a couple $100,000 that wasn't utilized via OHB grant or a California grant that now the county is taking over because it wasn't utilized?
I can't speak specifically to that, not that I'm aware of. Debbie?
Yeah, with our OHV money, we've had some situations with the state where they were not, I guess, we weren't giving them the records that they thought we should give them, or we thought we gave it to them anyway. So our supervisor's office is working that out. That it's more of an administrative thing of it. But until that gets worked out with the state, we can't apply for any OHV funds. So
Not
we
anymore.
can't.
Because
of the county. We're giving them the right information that they requested or thought we were. It was just kind of a communication thing. So until some of these things get...
To get the appropriate stuff done, to get the money, if they're willing to give it to you?
We've been trying to work with the state on resolving that issue, and that's being done in our supervisor's office. And so they're diligently working on it. So hopefully we will improve our relationship with the state and be able to give them the information they need, and we'll be able to apply for grants again. But right now,
I just want to say I think it's great to have the trail aspect and recreation as part of this project. And I just, with the talk of the trailheads being at capacity and possibly like widening them out, I mentioned this at the last meeting, but that Gold Lake OHB staging area that's used in the winter time goes completely unused all summer long. It has 2 bathrooms, it has tons of parking, and I think there's a great opportunity to be able to have a trail that connects that up so that people are encouraged to park there. They don't have to drive as far up the hill. Would lengthen the recreation season for a lot of people. And it could also connect to the town of Grayville. Like
That's good. I think you wrote a comment. I saw a comment.
Yeah.
So we did that. That's good. That's very good. Thank you.
Yeah, Ron Hurd, Trails, Recreation and Community Track. I just want to back up what Greg mentioned about the connectivity from town. That's something the track has worked very hard on, is to have attempt to have non-motorized, nice access from the communities, such as Greg into the forest. So I think that the plan that you guys have here, we really want to compliment all the specialists and everybody that went out of the way to put this plan together. We will have a few comments on it that are kind of around the edges, like what about this little thing here and this little thing there. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I think would be interesting to include, would be to take advantage of that investment in that snow park. So I think there's a lot of trail users here today, just like last time, that would be of interest to them.
Yeah, we should.
There is a trail that does come off that parking lot.
Yeah.
It takes you right up to Grable Lodge.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can go to Smith Peak, you can go back down Grable Creek Trail, down into town. From Grable Lodge, you can go all the way out around Long Lake. So you do have some connectivity already, because there is a trail there. And it's pretty limited space. You have a creek, and you have a highway, and we have a trail in there, so you know that. So there is at least a trail there. We can certainly look at trying to get something else in there, but you have connectivity. Granted, everybody have to start with a trail, but at least there's something to start with.
I don't know if you can address this or not, but there's a bridge across Raven Tree Creek that is really substantial. You can drive a truck across it, a big truck. And I just wondered, is that going to set the standard for the other crossings? Because we have a bridge up there that was built by some volunteers. It's really a nice bridge. And it was my understanding that it didn't set the right standard and they're going to take it out.
I don't know if I can talk to that one, but I know that the large bridge, I'm familiar with it, that means it's not.
It's kind of, I think, a bad waste of money.
Yeah.
She's referring to the Smith Creek Bridge.
You refer to the
It's already been removed.
Oh, it has.
What happens is we have certain standards we have to meet with bridges. And the bridge that you're talking about, the one that's really big, a bridge has to meet a 100-year flood event, and it's going to have to last for 50 years because we don't have enough money to go back in there and build another bridge.
So all of them be like that? All these
That's
crossings?
our
If
standards.
it's over
Yeah.
a creek, it has to withstand a 100-year flood.
So because it has to withstand a 100-year flood, it has to be a lot up higher above the river. I know Antonio can talk a little bit more about it. So since you got to get it up higher, the span's got to be larger. So the width has got to be able to accommodate horses. So it's got to be wider. So so you do have to build a pretty stout bridge.
So who approved it to begin with? Didn't it have to be approved to even get done?
Right. And it just didn't get
Who
approved.
wrote up on it? Nobody?
No one knew the bridge was being built, so anyway, it was just a communication issue. We've resolved it, and we'll work together in the future to make sure we get bridges built that are
But
meet
I
our
think,
standards.
just to tap onto that, not when we talk about stream crossings where we have concerns with fraud, like for example, one of the trails we're talking about adding into our system, where is that one? It crosses Fraser Creek. We're just talking about putting some well-placed boulders in the creek so that it's more of a stepping stone type system. So not everything is going to be a bridge. It's site-by-site basis, but that's a prime example of more of a low-key crossing where that was our ideas when we were in the field looking at that one crossing. We didn't want a bridge, it's a really large span, so we thought maybe putting some boulders in there that would allow people to more of a stepping stone type thing, carry bikes across, etc.
And most of the crossings that I'm talking about, like they're talking creeks this wide. So we're not talking bridges at all.
Well, I just wondered if that same standard was going to be held for all of these creeks.
Eagle Creek is a major creek, and like Debbie said, they have to build it to 100 years.
So I think if everybody's good, I think we're getting pretty specific here on the questions. I'm going to kind of break up. I'm here, we're all here to answer questions, address us, we'll answer to the best of our ability. Please put the comment cards in there so we can make it part of the project record. Thank you everybody for coming. Sign the sign-in sheet so we can keep everybody up to date.